Mambo Team Africa Worldwide. This is part two to my rebuttal to the video, The 12 Reasons Why African Americans Are Not Moving to Africa. Had some technical difficulties, but I'm back. The last issue that I was discussing was gun ownership. And I just say, do your own research, people. Do not listen to me only. Do not listen to other YouTubers only. It only takes a little bit of tapping on the keyboard to find out that many countries in Africa allow gun ownership, and you don't have to even be a citizen. You can be a permanent resident. He talked about medicine. If you go there, you won't be able to get your medicine. Well, first of all, we need to start eating right. If you eat right and exercise, then you won't need much medicine. And then another thing that he really didn't touch on. I mean, it would take forever to talk about the problems with the U.S. Medical industry, but we need prescriptions for almost everything. When you're in Africa, you just walk up to the pharmacy and buy the medicine that you need. I'm not saying that they have all the medicines that we have here, but half the medicines we have you don't want anyway because they got a million side effects. How many times have you been watching TV and then some law firm is giving you information to join the class action lawsuit if you took a particular medicine 5 or 10 years ago and now you're bleeding out the ears or something? How many times do you watch commercials advertising new medicines for you to ask your doctor about that medicine? And then at the end of it, it tells you of all the possible side effects that may include death. Like when you go to Africa, everybody think you need a million shots and you need malaria pills and all that. You don't need any of that. If you travel from country to country, then the yellow fever shot is required. But if you go over there and you get malaria, you do the same thing that they do. You just go to the pharmacy and you buy malaria pills and take it. And if you eating right over there, they got less GMO products over there, more fresh fruits and vegetables. So this medicine issue that doesn't apply to most people. Most people who are thinking about repatriating back to the continent are already in good health. So that's a non-issue. He talked about lack of employment. There's a lack of employment here in the United States. How many black men in the United States are either unemployed or underemployed? So that's a non-issue. If you can figure out how to generate an income stream here and take it to Africa, then that's the best thing to do. I'm not waiting for Africa to be fixed before I go. I'm going to go and do some of the fixing. I'm going to Africa because Africa is home. And if Africa was worthless, you wouldn't have the Chinese and the French and the Russians and the US and everybody going there. They're going there because Africa is valuable. And so, why would you sit back and let everybody else go to Africa and cash in when that's your homeland? You're telling the Africans to fix Africa before you come. That sounds crazy. I mean, if anybody who agrees with that, I hope that when Africa is fixed, that that you're not allowed to come. I mean, that makes no sense. Why would you want to go and contribute to the building of Africa? He said something about, we started at 100 and now we at 500 and we're not going back to Africa to start from zero. And Dr. Claude Anderson talks about the wealth all the time here that African Americans lack. Yeah, we might have a nice amount of money rolling through our fingertips, but we don't spend it together. We don't practice group economics, and African Americans own less than 1% of all the wealth that's in America. So don't act like we'll be giving up so much, giving up our less than 1% of the country's wealth. Um, then he talked about living conditions. What? Living conditions? Man, in the U.S. and most of the countries, most of the states, we either have to deal with snow and ice half the year, or we have to deal with hurricanes. So when you live in the U.S., you got to pick and choose exactly where you live, and part of the year, you're being miserable, either due to bad weather or worrying about your house getting flooded or blowing down. So I mean, so the conditions over there, it's the same way. You have to pick a place that doesn't have a bunch of natural disasters, but for the most part, the whole continent has better weather than Chicago, and better weather than Detroit, and better weather than New York. Um, you don't have to worry about um, you know hurricanes as much. I mean, I know they had a cyclone a couple years back in Mozambique, but the Houston, New Orleans, and Mobile, Alabama area get hit every year from hurricanes. Then there was Hurricane Sandy that tore up the northeast coast a few years back. And what about all the fires that's in California? California is just burning up, and most of that is desert. The living conditions are better in Africa. People talk about the smog in LA. You can't even see the stars at night. Um, and he talked about image. That image is old. People always talk about the image. I mean, do you have Netflix? If you have Netflix, anybody who has an interest in Netflix, they have a large supply of Nollywood movies. And you watch those Nollywood movies, and they'll let the things that are going on in Africa. Yeah, you got some people struggling, but you have some people that's balling out of control too. I mean, we think it's a big deal because we can buy a Mercedes or a BMW on credit, and end up getting it repossessed halfway through the contract. When people in Africa own BMWs and Mercedes, they own it cash outright. That's for real, Luke. Um, and then he talked about how a lot of people who come from places that don't have running water and electricity and all that, and that's why they come to the U.S. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That makes no sense. If you come from those circumstances, you can't even afford a plane ticket to get to the U.S. You can't even afford the visa. You have to, in order to come to the U.S., you have to go to the embassy. You have to do an interview and all this type of stuff. You might not even live close to the capital, close to the embassy to even conduct a tourist visa interview to come to the U.S. The bulk of the people who come from Africa to the U.S. are students. They were recruited by universities, um, and we're not doing that or the U.S. is not doing that because they're not getting something out of it. They know that when these people come here and they go to school on those scholarships, that they're going to contribute to the American economy. So that whole people, starving to death, and so that's why they come to the U.S. No, the people who are starving to death, they can't even afford to go to the other side of their country, let alone come all the way across the continent in the Atlantic Ocean. So none of those people are even here. Um, Most of the people who move to the U.S., if they didn't come on a student visa, they come from the middle class. A lot of them already own businesses, and they're just hoping that they can take their money, invest it, bring it over here, and flip it, and make more money, and so they can send that money home to Africa. Um, and that's what it is. So I hope I cleared up the supposed 12 reasons why African Americans aren't moving to Africa, um, or are not going to move to Africa. Like I said, if Africa isn't calling you and you're just a Black American, then this video is not for you. But for Pan Africans and African Americans who are called to go back home and build up the motherland, don't be discouraged. Don't let videos like this discourage you. Don't let people like this discourage you. It's, they want company. They don't. They The thing is, they're afraid to leave, and they don't want you to be brave and show them up by leaving, because every time one of us leaves and hit the continent, it makes the rest of us look like cowards.